Hey everybody, it's Ron, and I want to tell you a story about business and how that story changed everything. A little girl by the name of Junie Hartwell had been promised Santa Claus. Not a department store Santa in a fake beard, sweating under department store lights. The real one. Her brother Earl had told her so the whole drive down from Evansville, Indiana, his knees jammed against the back of the front seat, grinning the way only an older brother can grin when he knows something his little sister doesn't. He lives there, Earl said. It's right there in the name. Junie believed him completely. She was 7, in a yellow cotton dress her mother had pressed that morning, white ankle socks gone gray with road dust, and she spent the whole hour imagining a candy cane gate, a workshop, maybe even a reindeer tied up somewhere out back. The car windows were down and the August heat poured in thick and green, smelling like cut hay and hot asphalt. And every mile her chest got a little tighter with the kind of hope only a kid can carry. Then the car slowed, and Junie looked out that window. There was a general store, a small white clapboard post office, a few houses set back behind picket fences. Junie's eyes moved over all of it, searching, certain the workshop was just tucked away somewhere out of sight, around the next bend, behind the next tree line. She craned her neck as the car rolled past the post office. Nothing. She twisted around to look out the back window as they came to a stop, sure she'd missed it. Still nothing. Just gravel and heat and a hand-painted sign that read Santa Claus, Indiana, leaning slightly where it stood. It was the stillness that finally got her. The moment she ran out of new places to look. Her face did the first thing kids' faces do right before they fall apart, a kind of confused, searching stillness. And then the tears came, fast and silent. The worst kind. The kind that don't even bother building up first. A few yards away, a man in a traveling suit was watching the whole thing happen, and something about it stopped him cold. He had 9 children of his own. He had made this exact drive with them not long before, and he remembered their faces doing the exact same thing Junie's was doing now. His name was Louis Koch, and he was about to spend the next 5 years trying to make sure no child ever felt that way again in this town. So, how do you fix a town's name when the name is the only thing it has? What does it take to turn a punchline into a promise? And how did one man's drive home from a disappointing afternoon turn on August 3rd, 1946, into the day the first theme park in the world opened its gates? From Business Basics, I'm Ron Trucks, and this is Business History, the daily podcast where we explain the stories that changed business forever. Every date on the calendar has a story where business reshaped the world. Today, August 3rd, that story takes us to 1946. A name worth more than the town knew. The town didn't start out named after Christmas at all. Back in 1856, the family settling this stretch of Spencer County, Indiana, wanted to call their new community Santa Fe, and they very nearly did, until the Postal Service turned them down because Indiana already had a Santa Fe registered. So the town held another meeting, and somewhere in that argument over what a place should be called that has no name yet, somebody suggested Santa Claus, and it stuck. Nobody at that meeting was thinking about business. They just needed an address. What the name eventually attracted was nobody's plan either. Kids across the country writing their yearly letters started addressing them straight to Santa Claus, Indiana, because as far as a child was concerned, that had to be where he actually lived. The trickle became a flood. And by 1914, it was enough mail that a group of local volunteers, calling themselves Santa's Elves, started answering every single letter by hand every year for free. The town had built itself an asset worth a fortune and never once thought to charge for it. Louis Koch wasn't from Santa Claus, Indiana. He was a retired industrialist out of Evansville, a father of 9 who'd spent his working life building things that had nothing to do with toy shops or Santa suits. And by the early 1940s, he had the time, the money, and a family of his own to take on a road trip like the one that brought him through town. He had made that same disappointed drive before, more than once, watching his own kids' faces fall the way Jenny Hartwell's just had. So when he stood there in that gravel lot in 1941, watching another child come apart over a promise the town had never actually made, the question wasn't about whether somebody should fix this. It was whether he was going to be the one to do it. Koch's plan didn't move fast, and the world didn't let it. He spent the next several years sketching out what this park could be while World War II pulled labor, materials, and money towards the war effort instead, and any construction had to wait its turn behind everything else the country needed built first. Construction didn't finally break ground until August 4th, 1945, almost 4 full years after that first disappointed drive through town, the same summer the war in the Pacific was finally ending. What Koch chose to build was different from what most Americans pictured when they heard amusement park. The typical model in 1945 was a loose collection of separate rides. You bought a ticket book, you walked from attraction to attraction, and nothing connected one ride to the next beyond the fence around the property. Koch built something else. A toy shop, a restaurant, themed children's rides, and a live, year-round Santa Claus, all designed to feel like one continuous story rather than a midway of unrelated attractions. A visitor didn't buy a string of separate experiences, they walked into a world and stayed inside it. That world needed a Santa who could hold it together, and Koch found him close to home. Jim Yelig, a local man who'd already been volunteering to answer Santa letters as one of the original elves, put on the suit and became the park's first Santa Claus, a role he ended up holding for the next 38 years. Children weren't meeting an actor in a rented costume for an afternoon. They were meeting the same man year after year in the one town in the world where his job title happened to be true. On August 3rd, 1946, the gates opened. Admission was free. Word moved fast, and families who'd grown up writing letters to an address now had somewhere to actually walk through the door. Nine years after Santa Claus Land opened, Walt Disney opened Disneyland in Anaheim, California, built around the same basic idea, a single coherent world instead of a collection of separate rides. There's no record connecting the two parks directly, no documented visit, no shared blueprints. What's verifiable is simpler and arguably more interesting. A retired industrialist in rural Indiana had already proven that the model worked. Nearly a decade before it became the template, the rest of the industry would spend the next 70 years copying. The park kept growing under family ownership. Louis Koch's son, Bill Koch, took over running things and kept adding to what his father started. New rides, a deer farm, eventually a full-size train that stayed in operation for decades. By 1984, the Koch family realized Christmas wasn't the only holiday worth theming a section around, and the park expanded to include Halloween and the 4th of July, changing its name from Santa Claus Land to Holiday World to match what it had actually become. One of the family's later decisions turned into a case study on its own. In 2000, Holiday World became the first park in the world to offer free, unlimited soft drinks to every guest, a pricing move that looked like it was giving something away for free, but actually folded the cost into admission and the ticket pricing instead. Guests spent more time in the park and complained less about nickel and dime charges, and the move got the kind of attention that pricing decisions rarely get outside of a business school case study. 80 years later, Holiday World is still owned and run by the same family, 4 generations deep, on the same land outside the same small Indiana town. The asset that built it was never a ride or a coaster. It was a name nobody chose for marketing reasons, sitting unused for almost a century until one man noticed what a little girl's disappointment was actually worth. And he opened that park on April 3rd, 1946. I'm Ron Trucks, and this is Business History, the podcast that finds the turning points behind the headlines. To hear more stories like this, follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen. And if you're enjoying the stories, don't forget to subscribe and leave a quick review. It helps more people find the story behind the business. And if you want to actually understand business better without the fluff or the buzzwords or the MBA language, start by visiting us at businessdailypodcast.com.